Far Cry New Dawn starts where Far Cry 5 ended. Carmina Rai, who is the daughter of characters from Far Cry 5 born on the day the nukes explode, explains that those who managed to survive found shelters in the underground bunkers, and actually after about 6 years the life returned to the surface, and so did humans. They started to rebuild from ashes and grow back the community, and things looked good for a few years until a highwayman led by a pair of sisters showed up and destroyed everything they built. But it turns out there's this guy Thomas Rush who actually travels through the country with his man helping small communities to rebuild, and Carmina's parents sent her to find Thomas and ask for help. So that's what she did, but it went horribly wrong, as she states. And by horribly wrong she means the train was attacked by highwaymen. One of the captains survived the crash along with Barnes, and soon Rush shows up and helps the captain to get out. Then the trio begins to search for an armory wagon to get some weapons, while highwaymen leaders are throwing a party all over the place hunting for survivors. They manage to escape to the river, but they get cornered by the gang and the twins come to say hello. And while Barnes tries to be friendly, Rush is like, "Fuck you!" So in return they decided to kill Barnes. But next thing you know, Rush rushes at them and pushes the captain to the water to save him. When the captain wakes up, he meets Carmina, who turns out to have saved his life. She says twins kidnapped Rush and takes Cap back to her parents in Hope County. When they reach Hope County, Carmina explains to her mom what happened, and she's like, "Don't worry, I got some experience in overthrowing a self-proclaimed regime, so let's kick their ass." Later she gives a more detailed plan, including upgrading their base called Prosperity, and gathering some specialists like Grace Armstrong, and of course rescuing Thomas Rush, who can help them upgrade their settlements. Carmina mom tells that Rush is probably in the mine. Cap goes there and gets inside. He goes through the tunnels until he hears a voice threatening Rush with kneecapping, but when he reaches the place, Rush already has the advantage. They get on his bike and escape, while highwaymen try to chase them, but Captain shoots them with machine guns. Later on the road, Rush tells Cap about weird people that once attacked the mine, and they looked like they were from a Stone Age. And the weird part is, quote, "They took shots and keep on coming." Carmina and her mom are happy to see Rush arriving at Prosperity. He's a bit wounded, but with his help they are able to upgrade the base, but he's not really sharing the enthusiasm, as he points out they need more people like experts in different fields. And again, just like in Far Cry 5, the game doesn't give a damn in what order you do missions, so your gameplay might be different, and I'm not even insisting on mine. It is what it is, okay? Cap meets Bean, who runs a cute post-apocalyptic startup called Wikibania. It's a map info guide. One of his scouts has a gambling problem and he lost all of Bean's assets to the highwaymen, so Cap helps him to recover his business plan from the gang. He finds this guy Richard and helps him to escape, and then Richard lets him into his secret bunker where he hides Bean's business plan. He also finds Grace Armstrong. She is blind but ready to fight. She has a cool weapon called Soul Launcher, and pretty much the name tells exactly what it does. Problem is that highwaymen stole it, so Cap goes after it and gets it back. Then Grace explains how it works and tells him to bring back a few other things. Gathering those specialists from the area is important to build a strong settlement that will be able to defend against the highwaymen. So basically Cap just helps them one by one, and he also gathers some ethanol, which is like fuel they use, and from time to time he also destroys a highwayman outpost. So, Selene is like a self-proclaimed medic who harvests herbs, and you see she tests most of them on herself. She needs Captain to get back her field kit that fell into a silo, well, a huge one. And the hard part is not actually to get it, but rather get back without drowning. So Cap needs to rise the water level and then get to the main hole before it traps him. There's also this really cool part where he gets attacked by an alligator. Or is it a crocodile? Seriously, I'm not an expert, so if there's anyone here from Florida or Texas, Tennessee or any other place that you can meet those animals, share your knowledge in the comments. Carmina's dad is a mechanic, and twins took him and make him work for them. So he's more than happy to get back to his family after Cap and Carmina managed to reach him and set him free. If you remember him from the last Far Cry, he used to own planes and still has that yellow one that I guess Rookie recovered from Peggy's back in the days, but it's rather a boat now. Back in Prosperity we get a nice scene of those sweethearts get back together. I mean, there's romantic music and even a group hug. Next up, Sharky. He also was in Far Cry 5. Sharky has a kid now. Well, technically it's his cousin's baby, but they raise it together and his name is Blade. He asks Cap to help him to arm the pressure pipe traps in the area. They prepare for the upcoming Highwaymen attack. Soon the battle breaks, and it's one hell of a battle, with waves of Highwaymen coming one after another, but armed with a machine gun and a solid mixtape, the duo manages to defend the place. After all, Sharky decides this place is not proper to raise a baby, and he moves to prosperity. Carmina's mom throws a barbecue and everyone is happy, but guess who is also coming to dinner? Yep, Twisted Sisters. They decided to kidnap 3 kids from the community, bitch slap Carmina and complain a lot about how Cap messes with their shit. They give those kids grenades and tell Cap to disappear before they come back. Rush sends some scouts that warn them about Highwaymen, and Prosperity is preparing for the battle and manage to hold on, so twins decide to bring on trucks and try to storm the gates. Cap manages to kill the drivers to prevent that. Then Highwaymen try to plant the bombs on the walls, but again fail to do so, so they decide to take a rain check. So community survived, but still they lost many during the battle, and if twins come back they won't have manpower to defend again. Rush suggests to ally with the group from the north, New Eden. Carmina's mom tries to tack to his reason, but after Rush sees them in action he doesn't listen, and on the other hand, they don't have much of a choice. And also Carmilla steps in, telling her mom to shut the hell up. I'm just kidding. She tells that maybe Joseph Sid used to terrorize this county, but after the nukes exploded, he didn't bother them much. So I guess it's 2 against 1, since Cap is rather a silent Bob. We also see a scene from the past showing Carmina talking to her parents about Sid, giving her some food, and they are angry and tell her to never get close to this man again. So Cap reaches the New Eden's compound and Sid starts to mess with his head the second he gets there. He shows up and disappears and tells Cap to go to the place where it all began, pointing forwards the Duchess Island. When he gets there, he instantly gets high on bliss. The voice of Joseph Sid introduces himself and starts to tell about the events which led to the collapse from his perspective. Then he tells Cap to find pieces of 3 amulets from locations known from the previous game. When he gathers all the pieces, Joseph leads him to Dutch's bunker, where he finds a book. When Cap brings the book back to the New Eden compound, the guards let him in, and he is told to meet Ethan Seed. Ethan has an altar with Joseph's poster, and when he sees the book, he gets excited like a 13-year-old girl at Taylor Swift concert. Then he gets mad that he is not the one who found the precious little book. Turns out Joseph was his father and now he's dead, and I guess the only thing he left for his boy are daddy issues. Ethan actually wants Cap to help him prove to the Peggies that Joseph was not a messiah. So he tells Captain to bring the proof of his death. But to travel north he first must prove he is worthy by lighting the flame of Eden. When they reach the hill and deal with the enemies, Cap is told to get into the cave and unseal the bliss pipes that provide fuel for the sacred flame, and then just burn it. With the flame back on, Cap earns a lot of street credit with new Peggies. He gets back to Ethan, he calls him a sinner in front of everyone, but as he planned at this point, they believe he is worthy to go to north and bring back Joseph. Ethan gives him bliss and he passes out. He wakes up in an old compound and Ethan explains that the north is still deadly, but lighting the signal fires dispels the effect of bliss. Cap gets on the boat. When he crosses the Shroud of Bliss, the world gets shady and the drug kicks in. Captain races with time here and he needs to get through the river before the bliss kills him. He reaches the North New Eden gate and leaves the boat. Once he passes it, he activates water wheels and reaches the head of the statue. The bliss saturation rises even more. Cap reaches the remnants of the McKinley Dam. There he lights a beacon, and that makes the bliss disappear and kinda unlocks this part of the map. Then he enters the sanctuary and sees Joseph sitting inside like nothing really happened. He tells him how he sacrificed everything he had and admits he was wrong. Then he says he has been waiting for the one that would bring him salvation. He tells Cap to walk with him and shows him an apple fruit tree he calls God's gift. Cap takes a bite and passes out. Then he has a vision in which he has to fight the beast, aka huge ass bear. Well, it's not really a vision, just those fruits put Cap in some kind of a beast mode, and actually what started as a typical hunter versus predator with time begins to look like a drunk street brawl in front of a stinky bar, and Cap wins it by punching down the bear so hard he actually flies away, and Sid instantly falls in love with him and invites him to come back with him to the compound. When they get back to the camp, Ethan is in the middle of a speech that is supposed to convince the others that Joseph is dead and he will never come back. Yeah, so there goes the speech. But Ethan smoothly turns his tone to, "Where have you been when we needed you?" But Joseph is like, "Okay, kid, thanks for warming them up for me, but now you can go back to your room." He introduces Cap as a chosen by God's savior, and he says that it's time to fight. His son makes a scene about it, but actually it looks like Nickelback was trying to perform next to Metallica, and that's how Cap convinced Peggy's to join the party. Back in Prosperity, Cap talks to Raj, who notices that he's changed after meeting with Sid. But all in all, the settlement is growing and the reports about Peggy's attacking Highwaymen keep coming, so life never been better. Cap decides to chit-chat with Kim, and she's concerned about the Bliss and also Raj, who went to do some recon and they actually lost the track of him. Soon turns out that twins connected and informed they captured him, and they order Cap to go to the old plant. Sisters have cameras all over the place, and not only Raj is there but also other hostages. Also the place is filled with traps, and I'm talking bombs, with timers. So Captain races against time to reach the hostages and disarm their bombs to save their lives. He manages to save everyone, so twins tell him to get inside. Raj is already chained and twins order Cap to handcuff himself, but when he does that, they instantly kill Raj. Then they trash talk and beat Cap a little bit until he gets so mad that he triggers the beast mode and he breaks the chains and starts to throw them all over the place. At one point Mickey grabs a gun and shoots him out of the window. Then we see a flashback of twins talking to their mom and leaving her to hit the road with their dad, and mom warns them to watch out. But they are already clearly under his strong influence. Then sisters wake up Cap by kicking him in the head, but since he looks badly injured, they decide to just leave him. He manages to get himself together and bring Rash's body back to Prosperity, where they give him a funeral. Kim tells Cap to find a promoter of those fights that Highwaymen like to bet on. His name is Irwin, and he tells he owns the money, so he really is into the idea of scamming them. Cap shows him he has a strong punch, so Irwin decides to put him in the arena under a nickname Lollipop. It's pretty medieval out there, but Cap manages to get along and survive long enough to meet the regaining champion and defeat him. Irwin put some money on him, and under a nickname Lollipop he looked like a total underdog, so he earned him a lot of cash. In return, Irwin decides he will help Cap to get close to the twins. He tells about this guy Frank, who is Twins' best trusted man, but Irwin hates him, so he tells Cap to kill Frank. See, Frank is a prison warden, so he decides to deliver Cap into a prison as a prisoner. On the way he explains that the demolition derby is coming up and the winner will get to dine with twins. But since the spots are already taken, Cap needs to empty one by killing Frank, who is about to participate in the race. Then Irwin will use his connections to put Cap into that empty spot. So Irwin hands over Cap to the guards. They let him to his working station, where his job is to make bullets. At one point twins pass by and Cap overhears that someone very important came to meet them. Shift ends and Cap walks on the prison yard. There one of the prisoners shares an escape plan. Cap starts to sneak around and finds a key. Then he gets on the rooftop and steals Frank's racer gear and kills Frank himself. Using the key he manages to walk out and get back to Irwin's truck. Then Irwin hooks Cap with the proper wheels for the derby, and the grande finale begins. Cap needs to win the derby to get into a fancy dinner with twins. Rules are simple, last one standing wins. So he just kills everyone, and then he gets an invitation to celebrate with the Highwaymen's elite. Cap walks inside the VIP section. Lou sits on the throne and everyone is impressed. Then Mickey enters and introduces Ethan Seed. Turns out Ethan made a deal with twins to hook them up with the sacred fruit that will give them more strength. In return, Seed wants them to burn New Eden to the ground, like now, at this moment, okay? So they leave instantly, and there goes Cap's chance to kill them. Well, but since he is already here, he decides to find a weapon and kills some of the Highwaymen's lieutenants. Then he just escapes the place with a stolen vehicle and goes to New Eden. When he arrives, the place is already burning. He finds a few survivors. They tell him the twins are in the chapel and when he gets there, they sneak on him when he tries to help one of the survivors. They throw smoke grenades and the battle begins. Cap has to fight the twins and their soldiers, dogs and everything they got, but he manages to take them down. Lou dies first and Mickey breaks and starts crying. Then before she dies, she tells Cap he reminds her of her mom and admits she should listen to her. Here Cap has a choice. If he spares Mickey, she will leave and go back east to look for her mom, leaving the violent past behind her. If he kills her, well, she dies. Then Cap meets Joseph and Ethan is by his side. Ethan tells him what had to be done and takes God's fruit. He takes a bite and begins to transform. The father asks Cap to stop him, as his soul is not clean. So Captain runs after him and follows him to a nearby cave where they have a duel. Now Ethan is in his beast mode, so he is acting like my wife when I forget about our anniversary, and it takes a ton of bullets to bring him down, but he finally falls. Before he dies, he apologizes to his father and asks for forgiveness. When he dies, Sid takes his body and tells Cap his only fault was that he was his son. In the intermission we see Ethan where he was a kid and asks for a God's gift. Joseph explains to him that he will never give him that fruit because it's not God's plan, and that angers Ethan, who tells him that he is old and when he dies he will take it anyway. Back to the present, father burns the tree down and admits he now understands that he is not God's shepherd and he brought only pain and suffering with his actions. He takes Cap's hand and puts gun into his chest. So again, it's time to make a decision. If Cap kills him, he dies, though his body is gone after you come back later. And if he spreads his life, he burns the tree down, buries Ethan, and lives in an unknown direction. After deciding Joseph's fate, the captain heads back to Prosperity to visit Thomas Rush's grave. Carmina approaches and shares a beer, saying that Rush would be proud. She also reveals she has high hopes for the better future and shares a toast with Captain. And that's how the game ends.